how you respond to a crisis is, fundamentally just a frame of mind that you have. You can either be defensive or offensive.
B2B sale is still a team sport. You have to really work each and every end of the customer journey. And you need to figure out what customer is going to go where, and therefore reach them where they're likely to look at you.
We look for people that we knew so that there was trust. And I think that's one way for us to really ensure that we're going to get the results that we want.
The cloud is great. It solves a lot of real-world problems, but it's not just one cloud anymore. Public clouds, private clouds, edge clouds. The average business uses 5 different cloud providers. It's become chaotic and complex, with unpredictable costs, inconsistent security, multiple management tools, and different formats for workloads that span cloud platforms and providers. But it doesn't have to be that way. The Dell Technologies Cloud, powered by VMware, can be the one constant across your clouds. It brings consistent infrastructure and operations to your multi-cloud environment, so you can choose the right cloud for each application. A public cloud that lets you easily tap into services, a private cloud that's fully under your control, or the edge with cloud as a service. With a true hybrid cloud experience, your business becomes more agile with simple workload migration and easy onboarding for new assets. Your teams get to market faster. With simplified operations and automated processes, you reduce risk and strengthen your security profile. And with Dell Technologies Cloud, you have flexible consumption options, reducing your total cost of ownership. Like it or not, the business world often requires many clouds. Now, that's easier than ever, with consistent infrastructure, operations, and services across all your clouds. You get the cloud without the chaos. The Dell Technologies Cloud.
It is my immense pleasure to introduce the panelists, Mr. Daniel Levitt, who is the CEO and co-founder of BIOS, the world's first and most advanced AI engine for life science research, and Mr. Kunal Agarwal, who is the CEO of Unravel Data. And at Unravel, Kunal is changing the way companies look at big data by radically simplifying the way organizations can visualize and manage data operations. We also have Mr. Ravi Ramachandran, who's the VP of Sales at Okera and has helped establish the machine learning data catalog category while serving as VP of Global Sales at Waterline Data. Then we have Vineet Rajagopal, who's the CTO and CRO of Digital on Us and is in charge of the technology and revenue for Digital on Us, a market leader in hybrid cloud development and DevOps service company. And we have a gentleman, Mr. R. Paul Singh, who needs no introduction. But I'll still go ahead and share that, he has been working relentlessly to make this track a success and has a very rich entrepreneurial journey and leadership experience behind him. He brought a company to public and has had led 3 companies to an acquisition. And then we have the moderator of this panel, Mr. Michael Morris, who is the Director of Business Development at EisnerAmper and has been specializing in accounting, tax, and consultancy services across a broad range of industries, including financial services, real estate, tech, family offices, and has 30 years of experience in this field. So without further ado, would love to hear the insights on how we can sell and market and do deals remotely in this world.
Thank you so much. I'm Michael Morris with EisnerAmper, and welcome to our panel today. Can you sell and market large-size B2B deals remotely? That will be our challenge to discuss, and we've got a great group of folks here together. And on behalf of the 2,000 professionals at EisnerAmper, we're proud to be a sponsor and a member of TIE and to participate one more time in this great conference. So thank you so much. I was reading the Harvard Business Review on Monday. Something came to my attention, and I'll just read the first couple sentences. COVID-19 has changed the world of B2B sales. Even if you started the year with a packed pipeline, few businesses have escaped the economic turmoil and are holding off on purchases because of the pandemic, according to McKinsey & Company. So, I mean, this is reality. And fortunately, I think we're going to be able to come up with some great solutions with this great panel.
As the world reopens, ServiceNow is helping customers make sure going back to the workplace works for everyone. Introducing the Safe Workplace apps and dashboard. 4 apps specifically designed to help ensure the health and safety of your workforce and workplace, all housed in a single dashboard to give you a comprehensive look into everything you need to know. And they're available now, out of the box, powered by the Now platform. Get a bird's eye view to make sure your employees are prepared and ready to go back to the workplace. Manage inventory levels across your organisation thanks to workflows that automatically replenish supplies. Screen and verify the health of your employees and help manage workflows for cleaning, sanitation and safe distancing for employees. 4 essential apps, 1 comprehensive dashboard. Together we can make sure going back to the workplace can work for everyone. That's the power of the Now platform.
I've got some questions we're just going to jump right into because we've already had the introductions. And Kunal, I'll address this to you with that fantastic background one more time. Every successful company has a sales playbook, but those got thrown out and rewritten for COVID. How did you change your playbook for success?
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Ty, for having me. This is something that's top of mind for all of us, definitely the panelists, but all the audience as well. How you respond to a crisis is, fundamentally just a frame of mind that you have. You can either be defensive or offensive. And defensive is, getting back into your shell, just writing it out, waiting for things to straighten themselves out. Or, you can go offense and figure out, hey, how can we actually improve our sales processes? How can we actually improve the sales that we're doing? And as time is going on, we all thought this is going to be a 1 month, 3 month, 6 month pandemic. But now as time is going more and more forward, it just means that switching to the offense mindset is definitely the right way forward. We've done a couple of things here at Unravel, learning from peers as well. It's actually helped us improve a couple of things: the velocity of our sales process, decreasing our cost of sales, and actually improving revenue. And it all really comes down to 3 things, and changing those 3 pieces, right? It's product, process, and people. So if you think about product itself, when you're doing remote sales or remote marketing, the value of the product is perhaps even more essential than anything else that you have going on in your entire marketing and sales process, right? So the product should be easy to try, easy to buy, and easy to realize value out of. One of the key things that we had to do is rethink how the entire journey happens in terms of our prospects, just covering our product and then being able to try our product out within their environment and then being able to ultimately buy it. So I highly encourage everybody to actually map out that entire piece and figure out every small little nugget in which they can simplify how people touch, feel your product itself. So if you've got, on-premises product, for example, think about how you bring them on the cloud. If you've got cloud products, for example, really think through the journey and the steps that your prospects and your customers may be taking in order to go and touch your product and feel your product, right? But always think through, how will the prospect think about and relay back the value that they're getting out of your product to their peers and to their bosses? Because as we all know, enterprise deals require at least 8 to 10 people inside the company who have to say a yes to going and buying a big ticket item, for example, right? So that's first and foremost. The other is the process itself. It's time to rewrite the entire process from a discovery call all the way into close, where you really need to figure out how you can shorten that process and how you can tighten up that process, right? So the advantages that you get with everybody being remote is you can get more people into the room much faster. I'm sure all of us will agree that a lot of time that goes into the selling process is actually setting up the meetings and getting people from different geographies actually in the same room, or having to fly around the country or the world in order to meet some of our prospects and customers. Now, guess what? You can get all of them into the same room together. So if you're selling to a multinational company, you can have a Zoom call or another video conferencing call and really get different constituents into the room together much faster. But also think about the gaps in between each of those individual meetings. Now you don't have to spend 2 or 3 weeks to land a meeting with the next set of people that you need to go and talk to in your sales process, right? So if you can shorten the amount of time that it takes in between each meeting and the number of people that you need to gather for each meeting, it should actually improve the overall velocity of your particular deal itself. And the way to think about tightening your process actually becomes a couple of different things. So if you think about just the discovery itself, what we are seeing in the pandemic age is we're getting a lot more conversations started. And it's just because people are more available at this time as well, right? So a discovery process becomes even more important to go and figure out, is this prospect real? So training your workforce to be able to peel the layers of the onion to go and really figure out, is this prospect a tire kicker? Is this prospect, somebody that's legitimately, a qualified opportunity or lead for us? Similarly, every other step in the process needs to be rethought to go and figure out, how do we go and improve the efficiency of our entire sales team itself? The other piece about tightening the process is, in sales, we always say, right, it's a game of champions. The more champions you have on the prospect of the customer side, the more your chances are of winning a deal. And in this case, the champions should not only be in the company, but you can also think about improving your sphere of influence by including partners or other companies that may be able to present a better together solution to your prospect or customers, right? And again, remote selling enables you to do that very quickly, where you can get your partners or other people that these prospects actually trust and have a relationship with into the room together along with your solution, so that you do have a higher trust level and you're able to win over champions much faster as well. And the last piece of the puzzle, which should be the first piece of the puzzle, is the people itself. I think we are behind the days where relationships matter the most in terms of selling. The profile of your sellers has changed as well. So what we are doing now is bringing on more sellers, for example, that are more high volume sellers, people that are just comfortable selling online. They're doing a lot more prospecting, a lot more conversations, and are able to get through a lot of the opportunities faster and further down the funnel. And it just requires a different profile and a mindset. People who are comfortable being on an online call with their camera turned on, right? To again, build that trust and cadence with your prospects as well. And if you break this down into, again, product, process, people, and map out the entire journey, you will start to see that, there's a lot of inefficiencies in our current system as well. And for us, we've seen our cost of sales go down as well as the velocity go up. So coming out of this pandemic, it just almost seems like, hey, we should just continue doing remote sales and selling, even if things go back to normal.
I suspect that's exactly what a lot of people are going to be doing. I spent most of my career on planes, so it's a game changer to be at the home office working. So
That's right.
Thank you for that. I may circle back with another question if we have some time, but I'm gonna move us through here as quickly as possible. But very well thought out. Thank you, Ravi. I understand you hired a new sales team in COVID. How is that, and how is that working out for you?
Yeah, thanks again. It's great to be here with all of you. So yeah, I mean, just building on some of the things that Kunal said, as we came to terms with kind of the evolving conditions around COVID, we actually kind of looked at this as a massive opportunity and a mindset, as even Kunal mentioned, for us to in fact accelerate a lot of different things, including bringing on people. And we felt like actually fundamentally the prospects for the company actually looked much brighter because of all of the things that were happening. So if you think about what we do secure access to data. We provide end users the ability to access data in a secure and compliant manner. And everything that's happening around us was all about the criticality of data, and if that being the linchpin of enterprise companies growing, but also needing that to be much more secure and protected. And so, personal data, all of that information. So the whole environment really lent itself to us feeling much more confident about the sort of the market that we were in. And, that's obviously some fundamental aspect of wanting to invest in different areas of the business. And like Kunal mentioned, we did a bunch of things to our sales playbook, but a critical piece to that playbook is the people aspect of it, right? And so we felt like this was a really great time for us to bring on a team, also an opportunity for us to make some adjustments to that team that we had. And so, how do we bring on the right people who can take our value propositions in a B2B environment, but really do it with a B2C mindset, meaning making sure that the product essentially was easy to use, the value was communicated easy, it was easy for you to try and buy, right? So all of that required us to think about who and what is the profile of that sales team, and not just sales team. I'd say sales team meaning SDRs right from the front lines to pre-sales and actual field sales, and the partner folks who, as it's very important for us to build that ecosystem, right? So some of the things that we look for was to make sure that we engage. We had folks who understood complex B2B selling with a B2C mindset. Understood these complex deal structures. So if you're going to do large enterprise deals, multi-year deals, how do you understand pricing, incentives, terms, all of those things? Also a very technical sale is what our product usually lends itself to. So multi-stakeholder management, technical sales to our personas, and then really building pipeline, that's really critical, meaning can you prospect, can you build pipeline, are you comfortable in this remote environment? And can you deal with some of the ambiguity that comes with it? So those are some of the key things we look for. I think there's 5 things. If you just sort of step back and say, we look for people that we knew, so that there was trust. And I think that's one way for us to really ensure that we're going to get the results that we want. Had an experience and a track record of selling such large deals. So there's predictability in performance, comes from the data ecosystem. So it's much easier for us to have a shorter ramp for the folks that we're bringing on, so that they can be effective and we can see really great pipeline, great traction. Also that, we look for people who are selling into the right verticals, so highly regulated verticals, which is what we sell to. So, that accelerates the traction. And then, looking at it really from the candidate perspective, is Okeda the right place for the candidate? And we want to make sure that we're creating an environment that's successful. So those are the key things we look for as we brought these on. We actually accelerated so much that we actually accelerated our hiring plans because we felt like we had this really unique opportunity to build a world-class team and across all of those functions. And so probably did a 90-day sprint. It was kind of crazy. It took a lot of people, lots of conversations, interviews, and a pretty well-defined process for us to be able to execute effectively and bring them on board. And so far, we've seen some great results and a great acceleration of the business.
That was actually my question right now, which is, are you seeing the results since COVID kicked in on March 16th? And is there a dramatic difference in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the measurements of the business and the key markers are across different dimensions. You know, pipeline is certainly one of them. The existing deals moving through the pipeline is great. Has been really accelerated. You know, finding those key areas. We just talked about a few of them. You know, how do we engage early on, but also in the choke points in the sales process. You know, POCs and trials are one area where a lot of companies get bottlenecked, right? And so, how do you create an easy way for the customer to touch the product, try it out, to a large extent themselves, and therefore cut down the time that takes in the overall process. So those are all things, but I think the key piece is, you know, you got to have the right people in the front lines. You got to have the right people to enable and collaborate with the customer and take them through that journey, you know, building that trust along the way. So we've seen certainly an acceleration of sort of our pipeline has grown tremendously, but also the velocity of the deals through the pipeline through making adjustments and really having the right people to drive that process. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you. Okay, Vin, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Michael.
Doing a large deal remotely in the services industry is even harder. How are you succeeding in this?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me in this panel. Not an easy question, right? There is no silver bullet where I can say, do these two things, but you can help or you can get the deal happen. There are many aspects involved in it, but I will say over the last 5 months, there are certain patterns that we are able to see. And because of that, to be very frank, I think that we are able to win almost 5 Fortune 500 customers, right? And if you look at those patterns, I'll give you, in the sales cycle, I will try to separate it out as 4 aspects. The first one being, you need to focus on where customers are spending money on, right? I think on a services side of things, especially nice to have is a different story versus must have. So you need to define focused services in conjunction with where customers are spending money, which is very, very important, and associating with their journey. Let me give you an example, right? Having a digital presence or moving into a cloud is no more, it's like a nice to have. It's like there's an urgency and there's a real need, and that's where the future of the company is. So if you look at the way we have really separated our services, it's really focused on this demand in context of how can you help a customer to move into a digital world, or how can you transform a customer moving into cloud, right? So that's an area where we are niche focused, where we have the specialization. But I can completely understand there are 50 other services company or 100 plus services company which can do the same. Maybe how does customer know who can do the best, right? So the second point is, according to me, is the most important, where we were able to get the real success with the customer. And that's where, how do you bring the credibility to the customer? Like, what will take to get the credibility to customers, especially they don't know us, right? And that's where I think Kunal mentioned, Ravi also mentioned, I think the partnership that we have with certain product companies, I think that partnership plays a big role in getting that credibility. And I'll give you an example, right? We have a deep partnership with many product companies. One which is like HashiCorp. HashiCorp is a 4 billion plus valuated company, unicorn, and we are the SI partner of the year for HashiCorp. So imagine a scenario where the HashiCorp sales guy is talking with a customer, and they are able to communicate, if this task needs to be done, it needs to be done by Digital Honors. That set a lot of credibility in front of a customer, where we are able to get a seat in a conversation with the customer, right? And that for us has played a big role in overall deal cycle that we are able to go through. At the same time, once that is done, credibility is set, you need to go into the next phase, where what's the risk that they are associating when it's a new customer, risk associating with the new services company. And that's where we have packaged offerings. we have tried to productize a service offering, or we are able to define outcome-based services, right? Where they are able to understand if you're associating with, let's say, digital honors, what do you get out of it? It's an outcome more than the people, right? There is specialized offering in the context of what they really want. So that's the third, but the last one, of course, are the other parameters, which include nearshore remote working culture or the cost effectiveness you are able to bring in. But if you reiterate the four things, the first two things, according to me, is the most important. And that's the key for winning us the real deals, which is the niche services where you are able to associate with the customer demand, and the partnership, which is able to get the credibility that is needed to associate with the new customers because of the partnerships like HashiCorp or some other product companies. I hope that answers the question, Michael.
I think it's very good. And we are receiving some other questions, but I'm going to hold off on those. And
Sure.
if we've got some time, we'll address those. Daniel, yeah, there you are. Good to see you. You're actually, I understand you're seeing an increase in business. I mean, life sciences, I get that. How has this happened for you, for your company?
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the question. And I'd like to basically bring attention to the concept that companies typically have, in our case, marketing budgets. So our service is a SaaS implementation, a digital marketing technology, which comes out of a corporation's marketing budget. Now, what COVID has done, and it came very quickly, has really forced companies to transition how they spend that marketing budget. So I'll give an example. If a company, it could be a mid-market company, it could be an enterprise, was previously attending physical trade shows. So we all know that trade shows cost a lot of money, sending personnel, the big booths, the space, and so on and so forth. And what COVID did in mid-March was really put a complete stop to those activities. Mm-hmm. Now, if one thinks about it, those marketing budgets were still there. They've already been pre-allocated. Marketing budgets tend to be put into place for an entire year, many months before that fiscal year starts. And now marketing folks had a problem because what they were trying to do was, okay, our job in marketing is to bring potential customers to the table so that our sales team can sell, whether it's through an e-commerce platform or whether it's through a kind of like an in-person, or in this case, remote sales process. And for us as a company that was previously having to talk to the marketing folks and say, hey, where do we fit in your marketing budget? What part of your marketing budget can be allocated to our B2B service? And what happened with COVID was that suddenly the marketing folks had money because this money was not being spent on trade shows. And these are big sums of money on one hand. And then they also had this other thing where they had a need to show sales revenue. So marketing, which is normally in charge of bringing sales leads and prospects to the website for e-commerce sales or to the sales team, now had money, but also a need to bring sales prospects, which opened a great door for us as a company selling a content syndication solution to life science companies, so life science companies like Thermo Fisher or Beckman Coulter or Agilent and others. And I think that was a very interesting point for us. And I think I kind of summarized in the sense of a shift of marketing dollars from activities that were previously more in person to activities which are much more digital. And this is something which might be relevant for other industries too, but this whole concept of shifting has really accelerated a shift of marketing dollars from less kind of more impersonal, less digital activities to more digital marketing. And I think this is a very, very strong opportunity because it was something which was happening in any case, but in our case, we felt that, okay, trade shows, and I think we can give an example of the TICON conference, which is not being held in person. It's still fine, it still can be done. And I think this is something which we felt as a big shift, which came about as a result of COVID. And this opened up a lot of opportunities because suddenly the people we've been speaking with, and of course we all know that enterprise sales can take many months, and could take even a year or two. Suddenly they had money, which they did not expect to have, because they were not able to spend it on the more physical activities around marketing. So I think that was a very big thing, and for us it kind of said, okay, great, now you have money, you have a need to develop more activities around bringing customers to your sales team. Bios can come about and offer you our digital services to enable you to spend those marketing dollars to bring prospects to your e-commerce website or to your sales team in person. So I think that was the main thing we felt in terms of shift. I will also speak about the remote aspect, and I think what we found, which was very important, that our customers are very global, and we always felt that there was a certain when for dealing with a customer in Europe versus a customer in the US, there was this kind of feeling of more closeness because everyone is in the same country, the same language. But what the COVID situation did, it kind of forced everyone to no longer travel, forced everyone to be on a kind of on these Zoom calls or whatever platform you're using. And that, I think, to an extent leveled the playing field a lot, where it allowed, we could have in talking to an enterprise customer or a mid-market customer, and they could have some of the representatives in London, some in Paris, some in San Diego. And you have to figure out the time zones, of course. But other than that, everyone was on the same page, and it felt like there was much more equality between everyone. And I think that made the process much more efficient, where it was very easy to say, okay, let's just schedule a call for next week. And it wasn't everyone thinking, okay, we need to fly here, fly there. Does it coincide with another business trip I'm having? So all in all, I think when I have to summarize those two important points for BIOS in terms of our service and our offering, the sudden availability of budgets for our service, because the more in-person expenditures were eliminated, literally completely eliminated, suddenly actually allowed these companies to move ahead more quickly with partnering with us. And then the other aspect where the sales process was actually quicker because of the online tools such as Zoom, enabling us to have meetings scheduled more quickly rather than waiting many, many weeks. There was really no excuse to not have a meeting occur next week, except again for the time zones, which COVID has not helped us work out. But other than that, it worked well. But I think those are the two main insights we've had, and that's why our business has actually flourished during COVID. And I think we're quite excited to the future, because the digitalization and the kind of the teleconferencing, televideoing aspect of doing business makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. It's much like our firm. In mid-March, we literally pulled back on all of our marketing dollars and to the tune of millions, and made a decision, like, do we cancel everything? And we literally shift gears and moved all into digital roundtables, webinars, just went all online. And it's been the one way we found success in all this mess. So with lots of extra money in our pocket.
Definitely. Great.
Speaking of marketing, thank you for that. Paul, as a marketer, what changes have you had to adopt? I mean, you go into conferences, everything you've got going on. I mean, this has to be a real game changer for you and moving fairly quickly, I may add. Give us your insight, please.
Sure. So I think I'm lucky to have an inside track both at Digital On Us and Okera, since I work with both of those companies. And I think a lot of the ideas that people have said here are right on. And obviously, it's no secret everything had to go digital. And I think, B2B sale is still a team sport. You have to really work each and every end of the customer journey. And you need to figure out what customer is going to go where, and therefore reach them where they're likely to look at you. I think, like Kunal mentioned also, and Ravi repeated, but more than B2C, I look for the D2C companies, i.e. the companies that are used to selling direct to consumer. They're my inspiration in terms of seeing, okay, how do they really look at a flow of each individual user through every asset that they have created digitally. So this is kind of one of the lessons that I have applied and really look at, hey, do people drop off at this point in their journey when they come to our website? Do they really go to this content? What brings them here? So content marketing is sort of becoming at the next level of what the D2C companies do that we have to really start thinking about. So that's one change we did. The other change, obviously, you still have to fill the pipeline. But more importantly, like Kunal mentioned, it becomes really important. How do you really now figure out and train your teams to be able to do a good job of figuring it out? Is this customer just wasting time, or are they really serious? So that whole process has to be tightened. And then in general, marketing really doesn't, try to come in the middle part of the funnel as much, but that's another change we had to make, because now there are many, many cases where C-level interactions, previously you could go to a trade show and you could have a C-level interaction, but how do you have it now? So we started to focus in investing in more of the C-level one-to-one meeting possibilities by bringing in some thought leaders into doing the webinars with us jointly and having more one-on-one conversation. So the idea really is that you gotta enable at every level of the funnel an activity where you are going to find your customers, and you have to change how you deliver everything today. So that's kind of been a change that we had to make, and it's showing results, as you heard both from Ravi and Vineet. And I think that another thing that I think is really critical is trust. Trying to earn trust in a digital world is hard. And you see some examples in D2C companies, how they earn trust, but that's still not enough. So this is why having more partnerships, this is why having a relationship with people who can bring you into those opportunities. And so we've also invested a lot. I spend personally a lot of my time on LinkedIn looking for CDOs and trying to track them as to what they do and how they react and how the CIOs react. And something that I didn't really used to do that much before, but now I feel that there is a need to sort of engage with people there, because that establishes trust in the company, in you, and then what you bring to them. So that's what I would say is really crucial and the change we've seen.
Yeah, I've always lived in LinkedIn, and I literally, before this started, was looking at my LinkedIn. I had 98 requests for connections. Usually I have like 2 or 3 a week. So
I guess Ty did a good job for you.
Pardon me?
I said Ty did a good job for you.
Yeah, obviously. Always grateful for that. We do have a number of questions, and we're running short on time, but I'll read the first one that came in just to respect the honor of the timing of it. How do you measure the effectiveness of a sales campaign, new metrics, timing, closing rates, etc.? This is open to all the panelists, whoever would like to take that.
I mean, I think I can kick it off. I think it really depends on the stage of the company you're in. I mean, I think that, because it also boils down to how much data you have, how much, how much you've been able to look at historically. So, I mean, there's books written on metrics, and I'm sure there'll be some more shared here, but the real question is, how much of that is relevant to what company or stage is in, what stage your company is in. I think we've certainly seen from a sales standpoint, and I work pretty closely with Paul on the marketing side. So it's got to be something that you got to look at end to end, not just sort of just phases. But certainly convert, how your pipeline is moving. For us, number one thing is velocity of pipeline is really, really important for us to then identify where the choke points. So is it in the top of the funnel? Is it in the middle of the funnel, or is it the bottom? And each of those stages are unique in themselves, each of those parts of the funnel. So that's why you got to double click on, but it's got to be contextual to where you are.
Thank you, Ravi. Kunal, I do have one question for you. I know that you've got some of your backers are Menlo and Microsoft Ventures, and are you tapping your relationships within those investment pools to connect with potential clients and new customers?
Absolutely. Any relationship starts with trust. And any of these partnerships that you have can help validate, especially for younger companies, why some of the largest companies in the world should be trusting you, while online reviews and everything that they can read up about you certainly helps. Relationships and partnerships with companies that they're more comfortable with definitely help you take a long way. So the tier one VCs definitely help. Partnerships with some of the leading cloud providers definitely help. I think one of the questions here, Mike, that came up is, how do you think about pricing in these remote sales as well? And I think that's a very important point, especially as companies. I'm sure a lot of us out here are doing $500,000 deals, $1 million deals sometimes as well. And I'm sure Ravi's doing this too, is try to think about how you can chop up those deals. And try doing $100,000 deal or a $50,000 deal, right? Every budget is being scrutinized and doubly scrutinized right now. Even in our small company, as things come up, right? For Michael, I'm sure this is happening for you as well, right? Marketing budgets, everything is being looked at, with double lenses, right? Do we really need to spend that much money? So the smaller the ticket price, the faster you can accelerate those deals as well. I think that was one of those key points that we feel to highlight here.
Yeah, I'm very focused on hitting singles.
Exactly.
That works for me and our firm. Lots of singles add up to winning.
Right.
I honestly, I think we're past our due date. Unless anybody's got something else they want to weigh in, I'd like to keep us on track.
Yeah, this is Daniel. I just want to bring up one quick point, following on Kunal's point about marketing budgets, is that what we find is that the shift towards the digitalization of activities around sales and marketing makes the ROI much more measurable as a metric, which is at the end of the day how all spend gets measured. So it's not really about how much money is spent, it's the value that money brings to the table. So I think that what we are seeing is that COVID has absolutely accelerated the digitalization of markets and specifically around marketing budgets, spending the money more effectively by measuring the ROI of every marketing dollar. So I think that's something which we felt. So anyone who is selling a marketing service or something that helps with marketing does have a strong opportunity to ride the wave of digitalization.
Thank you, Daniel. I'll leave us with this. Within our firm of 2,000 professionals, we see our largest low-hanging fruit as our existing clients. And I've been reaching out to existing clients just to check in with them, say how they're doing, and seeing if there's some cross-selling that we could do for other opportunities. And actually, most of my closes this year have been from previous clients that have been very happy with what we've done for them. So, so this has been fantastic. I want to thank everybody.